Hey guys, how are you? So, yeah, I just wanted to do a quick video of me um just doing a bit of a Q&A about why I may look like I have a lot of money. So, let's go back to where I was born. I was born in Kerala and I was born in a hospital that my mum worked at because my mum's a nurse, and my dad was works in like factories in India. Like he had a factory, I guess. So I just quickly wanted to address the people that I think the people that think I'm a spoiled brat, or the people that think that I got my money the easy way, whatever that means. Because money is never easy to get. It's one of the hardest commodities in the world to acquire. Um, so yeah, I just want to kind of talk to you guys about the comments I've been getting from the jealousy I've been getting from other women, the hate I've been getting from some people who think I'm very rich, and some of my friends who question my finances, which I don't think anyone should, because at the end of the day, it's my money, it's my finances. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. So I was born into a very poor family. My mum was the first person in um, her whole of her family to first woman in her whole family to be educated. She was the only person that was educated to be a nurse, and she didn't even have a degree. She doesn't have a degree. My father doesn't have a degree. I'm the first person in the whole of my family to go to university. So I'm the first person in my whole lineage to go to university and to have a university education in England. Um, yeah, from so my mum and dad have not been to university. I'm the first person to go to university. My mum got a diploma, which isn't a degree. It's like it's like an apprenticeship, I guess, where you work and you learn. You can do that in India back in the days, I think. But yeah, so to the people who think I am rich and beautiful, I want to educate you on why it may perceive like I am, or why I give off that portrayal, or I want to be portrayed in that way. Because the truth is the complete polar opposite of what you're seeing. Um, and I think if you look at my earlier videos, when it's literally like raw footage of where I grew up, you can probably see the disparity. Sat here in this house that I don't even own, my parents don't even own, like it may seem like, and wearing these clothes, it may seem like, oh my gosh, I'm loaded. When in the reality of things, I own very little. um, and it's because me and my family have worked so hard to get to this place. So both my parents were born in Kerala. Both of my parents had no education whatsoever, except for my mom, who was a nurse, and she got that by working really hard from the lowest level down in like the hospitals to becoming a specialist in the hospital. And she did that by working so hard. And this is why I think I have such a strong worth ethic compared to everyone else. Like, none of my peers work 7 days a week. And I think the reason why I have such a weird sense of life is probably because of the hard working ethics that my parents had. So, let's talk about it, I guess. So yeah, I was born at a very weird time. My dad is basically like bankrupt, didn't have much money. He was very depressed when I was born. I think he lost his like the small business that he had. He lost all his family, would not speak to him because he was so poor. Um, they saw him like the dirt on the bottom of the shoe, like it was really bad. he had quarrels with his brothers due to financial situations and the fact that like he didn't have any money. He was barely putting food on the table. And my mum struggled a lot with that. And because my father was struggling so much, my mum, after having me, went straight back to work because she couldn't, if she didn't go back to work, would be starving in India. That was what would have happened if my mum didn't decide to go to work because my dad was just not finding the work that he needed. And he was absolutely broke. He was broken mentally because he was really depressed, having lost his business, and he was broken, just a broken man, I would say. And so my mum stepped up, and so I was given to my mum's auntie to look after. So I didn't grow up with my mum or my dad. Um, I think my dad had his own problems that he was trying to sort out. So, like, my mum just gave me to my aunt, who I still hold dear. So my childhood memories is with like the aunt and not my mother. So I don't really know my mother until I was 6, um, because she was working. So like literally, I was born like a few months later. She'd gone back to work as a nurse, but instead of working in India, I think she worked in India. I'm not really sure. I think she worked in India, but not in Kerala, where I was, the state I was in. She went to a different state. She had to go to a different state to get a job. And then she went to a different state to work as a nurse. And then from there, she went abroad to the Middle East. So if you worked during the war in the Middle East, you would get paid a lot of money. So to survive and to kind of have a better life for us, she kind of put her life at risk to be able to go abroad into the Middle Eastern war zone and work as a nurse in an American British Army base hospital. And then when the war had kind of just I don't know what to talk about the Middle Eastern situation, but it was an utter mess. And so when the war in the Middle East was kind of like coming to an end and there was less casualties, the British government gave the nurses in that army base an opportunity to come and work in the UK. And obviously, if you work in the UK, come to work compared to working in India, you earn a lot more and you're in a better condition. Like you're in a better working environment in the UK than in it's like one of the best places to work in terms of um, nursing, I guess. So she had that opportunity and she came and worked here. And all this time I was in India living with my other family that my parents had given me to. That was her aunt. And I didn't really know my mom, I guess. So I guess me and my mom have a bit of a weird relationship. Um, so yeah, I lived with her for a really lived with my aunt for a really long time. Then I was really struggling in school. I just didn't really quite understand where my parents were, like, because I didn't really I had parents, but I wasn't adopted or I wasn't. I guess I was fostered. I don't know. It was just very confusing time not to have like everyone seemed to have their mom and dad, and then to live without my mom and dad was really difficult to explain to other kids. Like, I didn't care about the situation, but it was very hard to explain to other kids where my parents were. But then I had a really great time living with my aunt and having my three older siblings who were like so much older than me. They were like teenagers, and I was like, I don't know, a 2 year old, like a 3 year old. I'm not really sure, like really young. Um, and then my mum came here, started working here for like a few years, and then my mum gave my dad an option if he wanted to come and visit her in the UK, and he was like, yeah, sure. So I, along with my dad, came from India to um, come and work in the UK, work slash it was meant to be a visit. It really we weren't planning to stay here. It was just meant to be me coming over to see my mom and kind of create a bond. And at the end of the day, my dad really liked it here, and he saw that life was better here in terms of working conditions, better pay. there isn't slavery like there is in India and the Middle East. Um, so so yeah, so that happened, and then we stayed. So then when I came here, I spoke zero English. I had like no, I did not speak English. Um, I found it very difficult because my mother tongue is Malayalam. So to learn English and knowing zero English and then being transported into this alien country where like everyone spoke another language to me, everyone's like white, didn't look like me. I was the only brown girl in that whole school. Like it was kind of like scary. Like I was scared and I would cry every day being like, I want to go back to my other family. I did not want to live with my parents. I was very upset. And then but then, yeah, so then my dad did, you have to work for a certain amount of years in the UK to get permanent residency. So he worked like really bad factory jobs. But in terms of like India, it was probably better to work here in these factories. So he was doing like really minimum paid like factory jobs. And then I grew up, did my exams, did really well on my GCSEs, didn't do as well on my A levels, but I tried really hard in school. And I was very like, I loved school here because back in India, I used to get hit. So slashes were still legal in India when I was going to school. So I remember the teacher like hitting me with like, you had to like have your hand out if you did something wrong, like made a homework mistake or didn't understand a question. He or she would just hit you in the hand with like a really horrible bamboo stick in front of the whole class. So not only was it like shameful and like ashamed, you're like ashamed. I hated school in India. So if I hadn't left India, I would not study because I hated school. And then I came to this country in the UK where I didn't get hit by the teachers or like, like I would be like crying every time I was in India. And here in the UK, like they would be like, oh, you don't understand anything? Oh, we'll help you. Like we'll explain this to you. So I was so thankful that for some miracle that um, I was educated in England because the education system in India, I don't think people understand the abuse that goes on in India in the education system to try and get the top ranks or like the way they teach kids, in my opinion, is wrong. Or how they treated me in India in schools were wrong. Like they should not have done what they did. And would I ever send my kids to India to study? Never. Because I don't think the abusive kind of cultural way of teaching in India is actually publicly available and is talked about. Um, so yeah, I came here, studied really hard. I was happy that none of the teachers they were nice in comparison. They were like saints in comparison to the teachers I had to deal with in India. So I did really well in the UK in terms of studying, and I love studying. And then I was the first person in my family to go to university. I started working. So I used to work when I was a kid in India. Like I would just like, I don't know, do chores, I guess, clean the house and like do chores, but I would never get paid any money. I would just clean the house because they got told to clean the house and do laundry and stuff. And then I had to like work. I like worked a little bit in a factory when I was a kid in India. Just like doing like odd bits and bobs, I don't know, but like the tiniest amount. So I started probably, but the only time I got like a full, like I had a proper job was working in the hospital as a volunteer that I can't say it, befriender, um, which is where you go to hospital and then you talk to patients in the hospital who are really like sad or depressed because they don't have any family coming to visit them. And then you talk to them. You didn't get paid as it was a voluntary job, but it was like the first proper job I had. And I was like 15. And in the UK, you have to be 16 to legally be able to work, but somehow they were able to get me because I really wanted to work. Um, but yeah, so so my first job was a voluntary job at the hospital. I worked for WRVS, which was a shop also for voluntary, because they couldn't pay me legally because if they paid me, then it becomes child slavery, I guess, or like, yeah, just they people don't like kids working in the UK. It's like seen as like a bad thing. But yeah, and then I got my first waitress job in Raj Pavilion in Bristol, which is like an Indian restaurant run by Bengalis. So I got that job when I was 16, because I gave in my CV to like the manager and I was like, please, can I have a job? So I had my first job when I was 16. So I was like studying, like I was studying, my A levels were maths, biology, chemistry, physics, psychology, extended project in medical research. And on top of that, I was volunteering at the hospital. And on top of that, I was working as a waitress. And that I was just, I don't know, I was doing too much. I was spreading myself too thinly. And I think that's why I didn't do so well in my A levels, which was the entry. That's the most important one because that's the only record, that's the entry requirements. You need to pass that with flying colours for the entry requirements to go to university. And I could have gone to like a better university if I hadn't spread myself so thinly with doing so many different things and jobs. Um, but yeah, so I did that when I was the age of 16, and I was working from the age of 16, and then I got a bursary to do some research because I was so good at science, um, by the it's all on my LinkedIn by NAFL. It's called a NAFL bursary, but it's by the British Science Society, which helps. That was really helpful for someone who had no parents who went to university, or who had no background in science, of like my had no family members who are like very like educated in science. Like, I don't know anyone who's gone to university. I don't know anyone in the UK who's anyway. So yeah, I couldn't really talk to my parents about anything I was doing because they had no clue. Like they had no idea what I was doing. So it was very difficult. And then I did that. And then and then I got this bursary and I worked for this scientific group, and then they gave me like a placement for a year. But the problem with that was they didn't pay me. Like it was an unpaid like summer job in a research lab. And I get that. Like I'm like, oh great, that's so glad like I had a summer job in a lab, but where the hell am I gonna like feed myself with? Like, thanks for the great opportunity, but like, I have no money for lunch or dinner. Um, but yeah, I went and did it. And at the same time, I would work as a healthcare assistant in the hospital, cleaning up people's poo poo and urines and taking like samples and taking temperatures and helping people go to the bathroom and shower. And healthcare assistant is like the hardest job I've ever did, because yeah, people would be very, very sick and people would sometimes not make it. And I had to deal with the patients after they had deceased. And that was really hard at the age of 18 to deal with that because I used to come home like crying every day. Yeah. So yeah, that was really tough job when I think about it. And then I went to university and tried to work at the same time, but then I couldn't do it. Like it was just too much, like trying to go and do a degree. And my parents had no sympathy for me, even though like they have no degree and they have no idea how it is like to study a degree. They would not empathize with how hard it is because I think in their head studying is easy. rather like studying is easier than working. And the reality of it is studying is so much harder than working. When you're working, you just have to do what you're told. But when you're actually having to sit down and study, like it is so hard. Because in their minds, me sitting down reading a book, oh, I'm enjoying life. It must be the best time of my life. Whereas, yeah, my parents were super harsh. Anyway, so I finished my degree and then I started working like as soon as I finished my degree, I started working like even before, like just after exams. Like I even during my degree when I had summer holidays, I would work. So I did National Citizen Service leader, which is when you take 16-year-olds and show them different charities around the UK and you get paid like minimum wage for that. Um, so I did that during the summer. So I was working throughout university, and then I finished university and I started working 7 days a week, like literally Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was working, and technically, it's illegal in the UK to work 7 days a week. But because of my upbringing, I was like, oh, this is such a great idea. So, yeah, I worked 7 days a week until coronavirus hit and I lost my job at the school, and then I was furloughed from my job, in the lab, which I now may or may not have. Um, so yeah, life so for people that think I've had my life was easy, I think they're the biggest closed-minded people to think that. And you are never gonna get rich by having an easy life. Having money or acquiring money involves hard work, like a lot of hard work and a lot of perseverance. And if you are not white, there is no such thing as luck. You make your own luck, okay? Like, you don't have any handouts. You don't have anyone helping you to get a job because, their uncle works in the company and they know the boss and they're like, oh, he wants a work kit. There is no free handouts for you if you're an immigrant, which I am an immigrant. And I think yeah, just for people knowing if you want to acquire more money, the only way you can do it is by working harder, working so hard that you feel your every bone aching and your every muscle in pain, and you're just like sleeping and eating. And it felt like that for the last year. I don't know, I haven't made any videos because I was working like 7 days a week. It was ridiculous. Yeah, so it was very, very, very difficult. But yeah, the point I was trying to make was, and guys see me reviewing really expensive product. The reason I am able to do that is because of the fact that I have saved up money, and it was probably like the Christian Louboutin shoes. They were bought on a credit card when I went to France like a long time ago. These like expensive things I own, like they're not really that expensive in comparison because I've never bought anything full price. I've always bought things on sale, or there's always ways to get things cheaper if you really try and look harder and work harder to get like good deals. Um, so yeah, and it shouldn't really, I don't know, if I work 7 days a week and like I have a little bit of savings and I want to treat myself, I think maybe it comes from being so poor. Like, I feel like being able to buy something so like rich is, I don't know, it makes me happy for some reason. And I don't know if that's just because no one in my whole life would have ever been able to afford anything like that. Like, for example, this coat, they wouldn't have been able to afford it. Like, they live on a farm in India. Like, my parents wouldn't even be able to afford this life that I have. And I'm so grateful that I've worked so hard all throughout my life to be here. And my parents have worked 10 times harder to give me this life as well, I guess. But at the end of the day, I think you kind of have to take your life in your own hands. And I am trying to take my own life in my own hands. But during a pandemic, when one of my jobs, I'd like, the schools all closed down, so I didn't have that job anymore. And then the lab job, I'm furloughed. So I have to wait till they ask me to come back to work. It's not the best time to be able to start my independent life, but somehow I have to do it. But please, 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 to the people who think that I've like I had an easy life, or I might portray myself to be this rich girl living in England, don't be fooled. Is all I want to say. I'm just a poor girl trying to look like a rich kid, I think. But in reality, it's a lot different. I think the hardest thing I found was when I went to India. A lot of people didn't want me to film. When I was 18, I went to India for a few weeks, and no one wanted to let me film because yeah, because they were living in very, very, poor houses, I guess, houses that aren't up to standard, and they didn't want the world seeing, or, other people seeing how they lived, even though they were happy for me to stay at their house, they just didn't want me filming. But yeah, that's a little bit of a story, a little bit of a rant, because I've had enough of people just telling me how to spend my money. At the end of the day, it's my money. No one has a say to tell me how I spend my money. So I just want to make that clear to everyone, every one of my friends, family members, and just every single person that knows me. Just know that you have no say in what I do with my life and my money specifically, because I earn that fair and square. It doesn't grow on trees. Um, yeah, so that's my little rant. It's been longer than I thought, but yeah, if you have more questions about my life, please leave a comment below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so that I'll make more content like this. I hope you're all well.